So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome to today's Power Platform webcast, The Key to Intelligent Factories and Shop Floor Automation, presented by both Microsoft and 13-time Microsoft Partner of the Year and top manufacturing partner, MCA Connect. This webcast today is hosted as part of Microsoft's Industry Insights Manufacturing webinar series. And MCA Connect is honored to be one of the first and only systems integrators and business applications partners invited to participate. So we're excited for you all to hear the content today. Over the next hour, you'll hear from our experts on how to leverage the latest innovations in Power Platform to build an intelligent factory, automate your shop floor, and continue your journey to become a modern manufacturing partner. So with that, I'm excited to introduce today's speakers. First up, we have Leon Willicke. He's the Chief Product Officer for Power Apps at Microsoft. Leon leads and partners across the Microsoft platform to deliver high-quality, simple, and delightful end-to-end experiences, and is passionate about empowering every person to participate in the app ecosystem as a user, a maker, or an admin. Originally from Spain, Leon holds an impressive PhD in computer science and Master of Science in software engineering, and is a frequent presenter on cloud and the low-code movement. So thanks for joining us today, Leon. And he'll kick us off by covering why organizations are choosing Power Platform and its impact, and then close us off with Microsoft's latest Power Platform innovations, including a live demo of Copilot, so make sure you stay till the end of the event. And then next up, we have Dag Kellefel, who's the Director of Technology Innovation from MCA Connect. Dag will cover the top 4 use cases for Power Platform and manufacturing, including dashboard and app examples straight from the shop floor of our own manufacturing customers. And Dag is a technologist with deep knowledge of Power Platform, Dynamics 365, and Azure. He has 2 decades of experience working with these Microsoft solutions in a manufacturing setting, and actually flipped sides about 7 years ago to join MCA Connect from one of our very own manufacturing customers. And then before we get started, since we have over 300 manufacturing peers that are registered for this event, we would love to go ahead and poll the audience on what topics are most top of mind for you in your organization. Which of these are most top of mind for you related to Power Platform? We have real-time shop floor factory IoT, process automation and optimization, leveraging AI technologies, the last mile modernization and optimization, increased collaboration, or something else. We've got a couple of close ones. So it looks like right now we're at 38% for process automation and optimization. And then right behind that at 31% is real-time shop floor and factory IoT. So that's awesome. Thank you for those that participated in that poll. That'll help Dag and Leon make sure we incorporate both process automation and real-time shop floor into the content today. So with that, Leon, I'll go ahead and let you take control and start sharing to get us started. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much. So hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Leon Willicke, and what we're going to talk about right now is like business applications, Power Platform. So let me advance the slides. Can you all see my slide right now?
We sure can.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Just wanted to confirm that I'm moving and we are all moving together. So business applications are being reimagined at their core, and business applications is a space that has been evolving with the technology over the past, let's say, 30, 40, 50 years. We went from mainframes to timeshare to PCs to the cloud to the mobile revolution, and now with AI, we are witnessing the next stage of that evolution. There are going to be 500 million more apps that need to be built, according to IDC, with a shortage of 4 million developers to build them. A way to address this shortage is teaching everyone how to code. And that's a very fine strategy and approach. We are doing it and we need to continue doing it, but probably we will not go fast enough. So another way in which we can address this gap is reaching everyone with low code. And when I say everyone, I'm talking from citizen developers, experts that have a need and can use tools to solve that problem, to professional developers that have dev education and can create complex solutions. There's solutions and tools for everyone in the Power Platform, and we want to reach every one of them to empower them to accomplish more, to achieve more. In case that you were wondering, this low-code thing is here to stay or not, we are at the midpoint of the low-code revolution. In 2020, just 3 years ago, only 25% of the apps were built using low-code, according to Gartner. But by 2026, 75% of the apps will be built with low-code technologies. And one thing, this is my personal opinion, I think that number will be higher with the advent of generative AI tools. And I hope that at the end of this session, when we see what we are building and what we are doing, you will believe the same as well. Now, the Power Platform. Microsoft low-code solution is the Power Platform. That is a no-code, low-code, and code first. Everyone is welcome. As I said before, from citizens to professional developers, we have tools for everyone. The Power Platform has 5 flagship products. Probably the one that I'm going to start from the right, the one that everybody knows is Power BI, which makes creating reports accessible to everyone. If you have access to the data and you want to create a report and you know what you need, just can go do it. All the rest of the products do the same for different domains. Power Apps makes it easy for everyone to build mobile or web applications. Power Automate, the creation of automation flows and RPA. Microsoft Copilot Studio, the creation of conversational solution or copilots. Power Pages, public secure websites that use data. And of course, I just mentioned Power BI, that is for reporting. These are our 5 flagship products, but there's something else that I want to mention because it's very relevant for the discussion that we are having. We have other products that support all these flagship products. There are 3 that I want to call out. One is the connectors. The Power Platform comes with more than 1,000 certified connectors that you can use to connect to virtually anything that is under the sun or the moon. And if what you want to connect is not there, you can easily create your own. So basically, your solutions in Power Platform can connect to any of the systems that you have in the floor plant. Dataverse is a database similarly to what Power Apps does to reporting, so Power Apps does to applications and Power BI does to reporting, Dataverse does to data. And when you use Dataverse to store your data, you get very good integrations across all the Power Platform, but across the Microsoft ecosystem. So it's our relational database solution. And AI Builder can be used to create AI models. So all these tools support all those flagship products equally and enhance what they can do and what you can do. Now, this is awesome, but it gets even more awesome when you think that the Power Platform is part of an even bigger ecosystem. That is everything that we have to offer at Microsoft. So Power Platform, in addition to be fully integrated among all these products, it's also well integrated with Office, Teams, Microsoft 365, your applications, our security assets like Entra, Endpoint Management, Azure, Visual Studio, our developer tools. All of these augment what you can do with the Power Platform. So it's a platform with a breadth that nobody else has in the industry. Now, in terms of usage, the Power Platform is the most used low-code, no-code platform in the industry. 500,000 organizations use the Power Platform every month. And 97% of Fortune 500 use the Power Platform today. This validation that we got from our users, also we get from the analysts. If you look at the latest Forrester report, Power Platform is at the leadership position, and same happens in reports from other analysts as well, like Gartner and others. So with this, we just talk about the Power Platform, solution to empower everyone to build digital solutions, from citizens that are people that have domain expertise and the need of a solution to professional developers. We have tools for everyone so they can rapidly create digital solutions for whatever problem they have in front of them. And again, the other thing that we discussed is the products that we have in the platform, how also they integrate with the larger Microsoft platform, and how the industry is adopting that at a very fast pace. With that, I'm going to pass with Doug, and I'll see you all again in a few minutes when we'll talk about features and copilots. So Doug, all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Leon. Thank you for setting the stage on how Power Platform has really been transformational for organizations and what exactly, which tools are actually in the Power Platform. And now we want to switch a little bit and talk about what are the top use cases for Power Platform and how can we leverage this to drive a more intelligent factory. And there's 4 main areas that we're going to look at today. First is empowering real-time shop floor decisions. Second is last mile modernization and optimization. Increased collaboration also sort of underlies all of this. and finally, process optimization and automation. So let's dive into the first one, real-time shop floor decision-making. As we've been out in the market, we've seen a lot of manufacturers investing millions of dollars into automating their shop floors, trying to overcome some of the workforce shortage and other issues that have arisen with the recent disruptions that we've been having. And as those machines and automations are installed physically inside the plant, we need to do the same technologically. So we need to, connect all of these robots generating data to some sort of database, to Power Platform, really, to drive better insights, to drive and be able to track our overall equipment effectiveness. We can apply machine learning and do predictive maintenance in that regard. And then finally, that would be a lot of data, but out of context, unless we had some operator input to enhance that data as well. And in general, the way I look at it is that plant technology is quite complex, right? Each plant seems to have a way of operating. Every machine you have has a way of operating. And so there's a lot of data here, and it's usually not very well organized. The systems sometimes do directly talk to one another. They're able to make some actions on their own, but a lot of times there's still some silos and some disconnect between them. And we're also still lacking that capability to drive visibility a lot of times with the data that is being generated on our shop floor. And what we end up seeing is that these gaps end up being filled with pieces of paper and with labels and with Excel. And those do get the job done, but again, it's kind of exacerbating the current scenario where we have a lot of different, point systems, which are really just paper-based solutions or Excel-based solutions, and there isn't necessarily a wider play and an overall strategy. And that's where really Power Platform comes in, right? We need to structure, organize, and modernize this data in a way that makes sense and drives operational efficiency using the Power Platform. So, I'm talking about not only using Power Platform in the back office, but really the power of the Power Platform is using that in those areas that historically have not been covered by a technology before, and we've just kind of made do with what we have. And an example of that is Trivium packaging. Here, we were able to apply a Power Platform to drive some amazing improvements. And in fact, when we got engaged, Trivium was falling short of their overall equipment effectiveness or OEE goals. And they realized that the cause was mainly due to just lack of visibility, right? And so we employed Power Apps and Power BI. And we were able to gather a lot of the machine data via their MES system, and that allowed them to drive real-time visibility. So in the end, they were able to eliminate the most common unplanned downtime cause and make more intelligent decisions throughout that entire thing. So, Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, all of these things are not just office tools. They kind of appear as such, but we always want to employ them completely. So, we also have a link to, and I encourage you to look at the video that describes in more detail about how we were able to drive those incredible increases in efficiency. And meanwhile, I'm just going to briefly just talk about what is OEE and just level set here. And it really is about three, rates that we want to track as far as how efficient we are in the plant and avoiding the 6 big losses. So this comes from the Total Productive Management book. And so there's operating rate, performance rate, and quality rate. And we need to record unplanned downtime. We need to track against our ideal production rate, and we need to also track any defective products. And what that looks like in reality is you start with a shift. Maybe it's 480 minutes, right? And you subtract your planned breaks and you subtract your planned downtime. And then, there was an issue and we needed to fix the break in the machine that cost us another 67 minutes. So in actuality, I lost 102 minutes of runtime just on that first section there. And that goes into what we call an operating rate. Then we also look at, well, we planned on a certain amount of pieces being made, but we actually made less. So in our mind, that means that we have some lost time in there that didn't get recorded somehow. And so that ended up being 89% of it. And then finally, we did produce 338 pieces, but found that 10 of them had blemishes or had defects of some sort. So we had a 97% quality rate. And so when you combine all of that, in actuality, 26% of the time of that 480-minute shift was ineffective, let's say. It did not produce a good part during that time, and our OEE rate is 73%. And if you actually go back and you look at the total productive maintenance book, world-class OEE is probably in the 85% realm, with 90% being your operating rate, 95% being your performance rate, and 99% being your quality rate. So, you know, this number may not be far off from what you actually will see in the end in your system. And so, but the truth is there's a lot of data here in order to get to that 73.6% rate. So how do we actually get to that? So I'm going to employ Power Platform naturally. I'm going to take my machine data, my MES data, quality data, even some notes, maybe some tribal knowledge incorporated via that way. And I'm going to, start by pushing that into Dataverse and having a common data model with APIs that can be accessed. And I'll have an app on top of that so I can look at that, I can maintain it, I can enter in things like when does the shift start and end, how long was it, so I get the inputs that I need to drive my OEE calculation. And I'll use Power Automate to generate shift summaries to alert people if I'm noticing that there's sort of a drop in production rate for the last hour. I use Power Automate also for the system integrations that I need to do here. And what that drives for me is in Teams, I can drive corrective actions. I can post a message and have people use it as a situation room. I can show reports in Power BI and see trending and do statistical process analysis. I can also send shift summaries and notifications via email if that's the way you prefer to work. And all this data is also available in Dataverse via API to any sort of ERP, MES, or planning system that you might have. So this is how we can use Power Platform to drive that continuous improvement of OEE. And in fact, MCA Connect has packaged this up in a product we call OEE Connect. And what is tracked can be improved, and sometimes when it's not tracked, it isn't improved, right? We've heard that notion before, and so here's a possible visual for you to use in your plant to track the flow of the product, to see which work centers are, meeting their takt time, whether that, and then how much, like, is that green, yellow, red, and where are we versus prior day, prior week, prior month, right? So this is a great visual to have out on the shop floor. And then let's drive into what last mile modernization and optimization is as it relates to Power Platform and intelligent factories. And what comes to mind here is just workflow and process specific apps where we haven't been able to develop in the past because it was just too much effort, now are within our grasp and easier with the Power Platform. And there's still a component of humans here. There's always a component of humans to enable and drive the process, workflows and approvals and things like that. And the way that we see that is by looking at sort of the overall landscape of all your apps. And this is very similar to what I just showed you before, right? At the organization level, on the right-hand side, we've got ERP systems, we've got MES systems, things that just are owned and operated by IT and are there and always available for you. Secondly, too, even at the department level, usually there are some corporate level apps like CRM apps and marketing apps that we use to drive those processes. But where we start to fall off, let's say, is when we get to the team and the small team level and even the individual level. And these are opportunities for us to use Power Platform, because what we found is that when you don't provide good software and technology there, that Excel and paper-based processes are going to fill those gaps, right? Because employees are going to find a way to do their job and do it more effectively over time without us using any and applying any technology. But if you look at Power Platform, right, and the fact that it's low code, that you don't have to use code necessarily, or you can get all the way to the point where you can be a pro developer developing inside a Power Platform. But what's interesting about Power Platform, as opposed to some of those other pieces of software, is that we covered the whole gamut, right? We can support everyone, even down to the individual level. And the fact that it's faster to develop inside of the Power Platform means that we can, codify, let's say, or optimize processes that we have not even looked at optimizing in the past. So, and then taking this even one step further, because I do feel like everything ends up becoming a data question and a visibility question. We digitize the data as we are implementing Power Platform at the team level and at the individual level. And that data feeding into Dataverse and into Power BI means that we can secure it, means that we can have visibility on it. We can start trending that data and understanding that in a much better way. So what are some examples of this, right? Well, one example is a time entry and part request process. So if you think about your maintenance technicians out there, you probably have a few or a handful in every single plant. And as you might imagine, they're using paper, right? What if we brought to them a Power App that allowed them to track their maintenance, right? So that we know when we're maintaining our systems, our solutions, and our tools. And then also give them the ability to request parts. So think about all those MRO parts, the PPE, the hard hats, the oil, let's say duct tape, if you will, and bolts and nuts. Let's give them a way to communicate that they need more and have somebody in purchasing, could be working from home, be able to place a purchase order for them. Another great example is tracking, waste and chemical disposal, or even scrap at your plants. A lot of times the question is, when do I call the recycler to come pick up, the scrap material and recycle it? How much of chemical, hazardous chemicals am I using and generating at any time? And should I optimize for that? Can I make a report on recycling and waste and rework? So by enabling people to do their job inside of Power Apps, we're also enabling us to do the analysis on how much are we using? Why are we using this much? Why did it go up? Why is it trending down? So all of these things come into play. I also think of another team level app being assembly repair time, or sometimes rework time. A lot of us, we take on new parts, and that first 2 months, we're doing 100% inspection, or we're looking at every single one. Maybe the rework is a little bit higher for those first couple of months that we run a part. Well, that's a great opportunity for Power Apps to fill the gap for some period of time. And when we don't need it, it can also disappear. And it's not like it was a huge investment. It wasn't a multi-month implementation. We build these apps in several weeks. And so these are great opportunities to automate. Another example would just be a material handling app that helps us increase inventory accuracy, or using something like this to do an inventory count, physical count, more efficiently. And then finally, too, just a point to make is that all of these apps can also be embedded inside of other places like Teams, like Dynamics 365, like SharePoint. They can be used on a tablet. So in this scenario, we built an app that allowed you to schedule a receipt on a receiving dock. And you can tell that someone in the office is doing this on their laptop, and the receiving clerk can also bring this up on their tablet and see where and who's arriving, when they're arriving, what material is coming, and even start to understand, okay, where do I need the forklift to take this? Additionally, a lot of times the way that we differentiate ourselves as manufacturers is to handle a particular piece of material or an order for a customer in a very specific way that they need it to be handled. And so having a place to put special instructions here and know that the receiving clerk is looking at that every time you receive the material has been very transformational, and means that we have a more consistent process in place. So let's talk a little bit about increased collaboration, talking about enhancing communications with partners, with customers, breaking down silos that might be people related, departmental related, maybe technology related. Power Platform is great at breaking down those silos and also, bringing and replacing the Excel files that we typically see in place for sales and operations planning and things like that. And in this scenario, especially with the pandemic, there was a lot of where is my material questions happening there, right? Lack of visibility and hard to plan on when material was coming in because a lot of that material or sub-assemblies or electronics were being made in Asia Pacific, and then at some point were making their way over to the US and Europe and the Americas. And so it was very hard to understand and to expect when was the material arriving. And so this was a great opportunity for us to employ Power Platform to be able to make a better decision on, do I need to expedite material, or is the material coming in tomorrow and I don't have to place a new purchase order? And we were able to do this with robotic process automation with Power Automate. So if the freight forwarder happens to have a website, we can log in for you on your behalf, grab the data, pull it into an ERP or into Power BI or into your transportation system. Or if they happen to have an API, Power Automate can use that as well if there isn't already a connector for it. Here's an example of a Power App that we put inside of Teams so that we can interact with it where we need it. Another way to collaborate is, I think of things like receiving bays, where you may receive a bad material and you need to take pictures, you need to be able to provide a note, you want to probably link that to a purchase order receipt and send that to your purchasing agent. That's a great example of a way to use a Power App to do that. Another way is with production, which is more what this one is about. It's about, hey, I noticed a visual blemish on the bottom of the part. Will this customer accept it? Well, I could go walk in and talk to the customer service rep. Hopefully he's in today. Or I could be in a Power App, record the data, take a picture, send that to the CSR. They can respond to me right there. So these are very powerful integrations that we can do, breaking down those barriers and silos. Another great one is just collaboration around new part process, making sure that it's got the right cost, it's got the right data for marketing and product catalog, it's got the right bill of material and routing, right? It's going to be produced at the right location and it's going to be planned in the right way, and it's maybe even got a minimum order quantity associated with it. So we want to just make sure that all the people who needed to touch that new part master has signed off that the part master is good to go. And then finally, too, we use Power Platform a lot for warranties and claims, being able to track when we have a warranty, where is the claim in the process. We also use Power Pages here to provide a portal for your customers or your dealership network, your distribution network, to be able to put in a claim and see where it is in the process or get reimbursement for a repair or a replacement. And then finally, let's talk and cover a little bit about process optimization and automation. And here, it's really the key here for manufacturing and supply chain companies really is replacing Excel with corporate apps. We mentioned that before, and retiring insecure apps or just having data that's floating out there on a sheet of paper. Hopefully that sheet of paper doesn't get lost. And in doing so, increasing user productivity, decreasing process time, understanding and monitoring processes, making sure that people are doing things in the right way, making sure that we're not mixing material that hasn't gone through customs yet with other material that has. Things, somewhat basic things, but sometimes these things are overlooked. So in general, what we found is that C-suite, the majority of them believe that processes are overly complex. And in being complex means that we're slowing down our processes and that all the steps in a process are not value add, right? And so what we need to do is have a solution where we investigate and monitor processes, make sure that there isn't a bottleneck there, making sure that there isn't a way of doing this and accomplishing this in a better way. And the way we can do that is with process mining. And Power Automate has come out with this awesome process mining capability where we can connect Power Automate to our data and our transactions with timestamps on it. And it can start to understand where the bottlenecks are, where you typically go through the process, times when people went around the process, and have analytics around that. It can also use Copilot and suggest changes to your process, maybe areas where there are waste, and you can report on it. And not to mention, because we usually stop there, but we need to keep going and start to monitor processes, right? It's one thing to design it well, but now it's been 2 years and several people have turned over and things are changed and our company and our business and our industry have changed. And so monitoring the processes and continuing to optimize them periodically is important. And that can be all done inside of Power Automate. And kind of what that looks like is here, where it's a web experience and each of these nodes represents a process and sort of a stopping point for potentially an order, a purchase order, an approval process, an inventory movement, for example, and we can go through and optimize that with you. And that brings me to another very important capability that we haven't highlighted yet, and that is AI Builder. AI Builder is the way that we can, with low code, basically configuration, be able to use some of the new, latest, awesomest, we will say, AI capabilities, whether that's document processing, text processing, images, structured data, audio, video, that's inside of the Power Platform. And the way that we've seen manufacturers succeed with this has been reading documents with AI Builder. There's a lot of flexibility here. It's a drag and drop interface. You train the model, you use it with Power Automate, and confidence scores are shown for you. And so that's the AI Builder interface. This is a Power App where we enabled someone to be able to look at customer POs coming in or packing slips, bills of lading, whatever that physical document is. We can scan that using a printer, right? Scan that to email. It goes into Power Automate, an AI Builder. It then processes it, it reads it, it then calls out, hey, I didn't find a ship to country on this printed out document. Can you please fill that out for me? And it also gives you a confidence level. So it's super confident that in the customer name on this document happens to be, Home Depot. All right, and then another very, very cool piece to the Power Platform is being able to use those pieces of technology together. So here we have an order management control tower where we're not only looking at delayed shipments, but we're also looking at entering in the reason code and looking at those notes inside of the same app. So we have both the best of both worlds, right? We've got the dashboards, the capability to drill in and drill out and go to different tabs, but we've also got the Power App where we're adding additional information to enhance the tracking and the capability of us to analyze why were these orders late. And then finally, I just wanted to bring to mind that you can also use this in the new part process and engineering. So if you do a lot of engineering of your parts, we found that a lot of times PLM systems maybe don't have the right level of workflow needed for your particular industry. And so a Power App is great to use in that area to make sure that you have all the engineering pieces in place. We know that in complex manufacturing, there are, 7, 8, 9 separate and completely distinct different steps that we go through to enhance and build the material before probably assembling it in the final stage. So this has been great at making sure that we've tracked and understood the cost in all of those processes before we take on building a new part or launching a new product. And so just to recap here, we've gone through the 4 major ways that intelligent factories are using Power Platform: real-time decision-making, right? Last mile optimization and using Power Apps and Power Automate even in the plant, increasing collaboration and process optimization. And with that, I would like to go ahead and turn it over back to Leon so that he can tell us more about Copilot.
Thank you very much, Doug. And as I'm sure that you've heard the word Copilot many, many times. And we are in the era of Copilot. And think of Copilot as a real-time collaborator that helps you to generate content, spark your creativity, automate cognitive and boring tasks, and help you create great user experiences. The Copilot is a collaborator that is always there to augment what you can do. Again, going back to what we were talking about, empowerment. One thing that I like to mention, and it's a very, very important thing, the name Copilot is very, very intentional. It's a copilot, not an autopilot. There's always a human in the loop making the decisions, and the copilot is helping to make you more productive and to take all the things that might not add much value to the thing that you're trying to do and accelerate them and enhance your creativity and output. And we'll see it in a little bit with very concrete examples. But era of copilots, it manifests in multiple copilots in the Power Platform that can help you accomplish more, and we'll see a few of them. So let's take a look. We have the, let me take control. I need to do that. So first, we have the Power Automate Copilot. In this case, you describe what you want to automate in a sentence using everyday language, and the Copilot will build it in seconds for you. Again, you are in control. You are describing what you have. You can decide what to do and what not to do. The Copilot will do it for you on your behalf, as you can see right now. The next one is Power Apps Copilot. Basically, it's AI assistance to create data-driven applications. So you describe the application that you want to build, and the Copilot will create not only the application, but also the data store and the sample data that goes with that app, so you can get started in just a matter of seconds. And we have the Power Pages Copilot as well, where you can use natural language to generate text, create forms, styles, activate chatbots, basically whatever you would need to do to create a beautiful, secure external website. Of course, supporting these copilots, we have Copilot Studio, where you can use the same low-code ideas and techniques to build and extend copilots. And as Doug mentioned before, we have AI Builder and process mining and a lot of tools as well that can help you accomplish more through generative AI. Now, we talk about the era of copilots and how Copilot is that collaborator that is always there with you to help you enhance what you can do, increase what you can do. And the best way to look at that is with a demo. So before we get to the demo, one thing that I want to mention is these copilots, what they do is they will help us go from people working side by side, that is what we know right now, to people working side by side with AI, an AI that is always there to help at the service of whoever is using it. So as I was saying, the best way to look at that is with a demo. So I'll go back for a second, backtrack, share my screen, and show you a little bit of this in action. So what you see here is the starting page of Power Apps, Power Apps Maker Portal. And the first thing to notice is that as you start your session, there's multiple ways to get started, but one of those ways is by telling what you want to do using everyday words. So this is what we will do. We will create an application. Let's ask it now. We are going to create an app for tracking availability of Toyota vehicles in a dealer's main warehouse and in the dealership lots. That's what we will do. So I'll go ahead and ask the Copilot to do it. And the first thing that it will do is, because we need to track all this information, it will create a table for me to store the data. And not only it will create the schema, but also will populate it with sample data. And the table looks fairly reasonable. It looks quite okay, but there's more that I would like to do. So there are a few things that I want to do to change the table. So I'm going to ask the Copilot to help me with that. And what I'm going to ask is this: to add a vehicle identification number, the VIN, a price, and note column. So I'm asking Copilot, add 3 columns for me, and then update the VIN number and the price columns with realistic numbers and MSRP, that are the retail prices for the cars. And then once it's done with that, I'll ask it to add 10 more rows of data. With just one prompt, the Copilot will go ahead, understand my intent, and get all of that done for you. Again, I am the one creating the table. I'm deciding what goes in the schema. What the Copilot is doing is taking care of tasks that are repetitive and don't add much value, and helping me to do more with less effort. Check this out: adding sample data. Every time that you create an app, getting sample data that makes sense and it's safe, it's super painful and takes a lot of time. With just one prompt, I have a very decent data set created with generative AI that is also safe. Now, we got our rows added. Let's take a look. Interestingly, we got the VIN column and we have the price. And one interesting thing, check this out. The Copilot is pretty smart in what it's doing. In the case of the price, because it's a monetary value, it's making it a currency column. What does this mean? Currency is how the Power Platform deals with monetary values. So this application already, as is right now, this table could work with any currency in the world. Dollars, euros, you name it. It's prepared for internationalization. So we have this, and again, you might be thinking, this is great because I knew what to ask the Copilot, but it doesn't have to be the case. I could also ask the Copilot if it could suggest other columns I should track. And the Copilot also can help me with the context, the conversation that we are having, and the data that we have, and everything, give me a set of suggestions that in general are pretty good. Mileage, engine, horsepower, several columns, which I can decide if I want to apply them or not. Remember, I am always in control. It's a Copilot, not an autopilot, which in this case is helping me to be super effective to create a schema and populate it with data to track those vehicles in the warehouse. So at this point, I like what I'm seeing, so I'm going to go ahead and I will create the app. Up to this point, everything was in memory, but now is when we start creating the table, uploading the data, creating the app, which takes about 1 minute. This is a good time to mention that this experience is generally available in the regions where Copilot is enabled, so you can try it out. It takes about a minute, so in terms of, in order to save time, I have it created in another tab. So we can kind of like speed up like the demo. But basically what you will get is a master details application, not much surprise, starter app that shows the data and lets you change the data. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and run this application. And let me show you 2 quick things that are going to be relevant for the floor plan scenario case. The first one, this is a master details app. If I render this app in a mobile device, you see I can preview the app in multiple devices. Well, I'll go ahead and render it in an iPhone. These apps know how to render itself responsively, which means it can render adequately based on the screen real estate. Because the phone doesn't have much real estate, I see either the list or the form at a given time. But if I go back to an iPad, I will see both. So the point I'm trying to make is if you can have those apps running, the same app, running on a PC, on the floor plan, on an iPad, or take it with your phone and continue operating. The other thing that I want to show you is that, let me make the screen a little bit bigger, is notice that let me make this bigger. Notice that there's an icon here, this one, that when I hover, it says connected. This app that I asked, that the Copilot created for me, can work offline. What does this mean? Without doing anything else, if I publish the app and I'm using it in my phone and I lose connectivity, the app will continue working. I can look at the data at any time, and even if I change the data, when I regain connectivity, the app will synchronize itself. I didn't have to do anything for that. I just asked the Copilot to build an app, and it did. Again, all of this goes back to the fact that the Copilot augments what we can do, taking away some of those repetitive or like low-value tasks, and increments the output and the value that I can get with my interactions. So we have the app, but you might be wondering, that's great. I created the app, but what happens after the app is created? Can the Copilot help me? And the answer is, of course, yes. So there are multiple ways in which it can help. One is we have a Copilot at the side that you can always ask for assistance. The thing that I'm going to ask the Copilot is, I will ask to make the form light gray and add the submit and cancel buttons. When the submit button is pressed, I want to add another screen that confirms that the data has been saved. But when the cancel button is pressed, I want to cancel what I'm doing in the form, the editing session. So I'll go ahead and ask this to the Copilot. And again, with this prompt, it will do it for me. So in a few seconds, this otherwise will take minutes. It's not something very hard to do, but again, it's a huge time saver, great productivity boost. So let's give it a second. And not surprisingly, it came back with what I asked. I have my confirmation screen. The form is gray, and the 2 buttons are here. It didn't land the buttons yet where they should be. Actually, we are working on that, and that's going to be coming soon. I will have to move them manually, but let's see what we got without touching anything. Submit the form and navigate to the confirm screen. And when I cancel, it will reset the form. Now, remember that we said Copilot, not autopilot, and always the maker in the loop. I asked for something, The Copilot did it for me. Let's say that I don't want it. Again, I'm in control. I could say I don't want it, and I can do it with just one click and get back to where I was. One more thing before we move on. We are working also on adding more and more in-context experiences, so you don't have to type all the time if you don't want to. Typing is great, and even in fact, you can ask the Copilot to do things, and also you can ask how to do things. So let's say that you are building your app and you're not very familiar. How do I publish my app? For example, I can ask questions of how do I, and the Copilot is trained on our documents, so it can answer questions, so you don't have to go to the documentation. You can stay here grounded and be more productive. But also, we have like experiences that are contextual. What does that mean? We got an answer here. What does that mean? I can come to this list, and if I want to sort it, I can directly ask it here. I want to sort the list, and I can type, how do I want to sort it here? Of course, you can type, you have the contextual experiences, and we also have the point and click that we always had. So the properties pane and clicking and expressions are always there. So the idea is that you have the best of all worlds. You don't have to choose anything. All these options are there. We are not subtracting. We are adding with the goal to make you more productive when you create those solutions. Now, when we run this application, I have this application running in the Power Apps player. This is the app that we created without any change. I ran it in the Power Apps player. Notice that there's a Copilot icon here. So what I show you so far is what we call the Maker Copilot. That is the Copilot that helps you to build an application. What I'm about to show you now is what we call the App Copilot. That is the Copilot that helps the end users of the application to use the app. And when I click this icon, I get a Copilot without having to do anything in the app. It's just there. And to this Copilot, I can ask whatever I want over the data. I can ask any questions over the data that I have. For example, what is the most common, well, let's ask, what is the most expensive car? Oops, sorry. And I didn't ask the question properly, or I hit like a small issue in this build that I have, but basically what it would do is it would answer the question that I have. Not only that, of asking questions, the other thing that the Copilot will do, and by the way, this thing that I'm showing to you right now, it's in preview. It's going to be available. This automatic creation of Copilot will be available in January. So you're seeing like a dev build, and I hit a snag. This is a proof that it's real code, and I'm showing you something that is in the real product and not like a PowerPoint or a Figma. It's just code that right now hit a small snag. But let me show you something else that is pretty cool. Not only you can type in the same way that we are applying this mentality of having like the sidecar where you can converse or you can do things in context, we are doing the same for your app. So in this case, we are adding, which will be available in January. When you have like a text area, you can ask assistance to the Copilot to create the text. So in this case, I can ask, it's a blue Corolla. So give me a marketing description for a blue Corolla. And even with a very poorly constructed prompt, I'm not a native English speaker, the Copilot will go ahead and will create one for me. So, and this is what I just show you is what you will get from App Copilot without making any change. But there's one more thing that I want to show you. You can also set your Copilot to use Copilot Studio behind the scenes. So here you see the same application. The other one was a starter app. So here I got the same application, use the Power Apps modern controls, make it look beautiful, as you could see, and add a Copilot that is connected with a Microsoft Copilot Studio bot. And this is why it's interesting for our scenarios. Check this out. This Copilot can not only answer questions, but also can act on my behalf because that bot is configured with plugin actions. Let me show you here. So I have a set of plugin actions that I configured in the bot. So check this out. Now I have this floor plan management application. If I ask start an excess inventory move request for the Lexus RC. If you see, I have here a connector that would do that for me. So as soon as I ask that, the Microsoft Copilot Studio powered bot is going to kick in. And the first thing that it's going to do is ask me a few questions because those connectors have parameters and I didn't give any parameters. So it can understand that it's missing data and ask for the data. How many do you want? I want 80. So it needs another piece of data that is the zip code. And basically, Once it has all of it, it will come back with an adaptive card rendering the data very nicely. And I can say if I want it or not. And if I say yes, it will trigger a Power Automate flow to get the process started. So with that, we did the whirlwind tour over the Copilot, but we saw how we can use Copilot to build an application, to evolve the application. Then we published the application and we saw how Copilot can help users use the application without having to do anything. It was just there. And also we saw how we can extend the Copilot with a Microsoft Copilot Studio bot so the Copilot can act on behalf of the user as well. So this Copilot can answer questions over structured data and take action. Because now that we talk about Copilot, I'm a little bit behind on time, so I have to run a little bit, but I'm going to share a few stats about Copilot. So in general, what we notice when customers use Copilot, they're more productive, they are happier, and they can achieve their work faster. They achieve higher success, higher productivity, and higher satisfaction. So let me get to the slide that has a few numbers that I wanted to share with you. And then we will move on to another set of innovations that I want to share that are relevant for these scenarios. So when customers use Power Automate flows, for example, the Power Automate Copilot, they can create flows twice as fast, and the NPS is significantly higher, the Net Promoter Score, measurement of happiness, which, by the way, is the same with Power Apps. We see more or less the same increase in satisfaction of customers when they use Copilot. When the customers use Copilot to build applications for Power Apps, they are 60% more likely to succeed on creating that first application. And if they start the app from an Excel file, the productivity is 80% higher. So as you can see, more success, more productivity, and more happiness. Now, I want to share a few capabilities that I want to highlight. And again, many things that are super relevant for the scenario that already shares. I want to share a few others that often are not that known, and I thought that would be good to share with this group. The first one is I want to highlight our ecosystem of connectors. We have more than 1,100 connectors that are certified. You can connect to almost everything that is out there. And if you cannot find the connector that you want, it's very easy to create your own. So basically, as you create these solutions, and if you have existing systems that you need to connect to, Power Platform will make it super easy to create in your apps, bots, flows, pages, data. The next thing that I wanted to call out is something very, very new that is truly native UX. So in November, mid-November, we released a public preview of fully native user experiences in Power Apps. So what does it mean? When you create an application, it's like a truly native application for iOS or for Android and doesn't use like any web technology to render anything. So it's a native application with native gestures, which has better performance and better use of memory. Let me show you an example. Here you will see on one side, like applications that we have today, and the other one, the truly native experience. Used to scan a set of barcodes. That is a thing that you would do very often in a floor plan. Notice that with the truly native experience, we could do that in 6 seconds, whereas with the other one, it's going to take more than 14. So basically, this truly native experience and better integration with the device help to create experiences that are smoother and hence more productive and more enjoyable to use. So that's public preview right now, available for every one of you to use. I'd love for you to use them and let me know what do you think. The other one is we added a lot of industrial strength capabilities to frontline applications that are the ones that you might want to use in a factory floor or in a kiosk. A few that are worthwhile mentioning, like the barcode reading, which we will see in a second, NFC scanning, location services, device-specific actions like push notifications, etc. So these are all available for you to use, including also shared device mode, that is having a device that you can share between multiple people so you don't have to give a device to each person. And the one that I want to show you is like the better barcode. So check this out. We improved the barcode so it can understand with the same control and the same experience, multiple type of barcodes at once and do it faster and in a more streamlined user experience, as you could see in the video that you're seeing right now. So that's available for you to use right now. It's generally available, which means that it's fully supported and ready for you to use in your applications. And the last thing that I want to call out in the last 30 seconds that I have of time is RPA. So very often when you create these floor plant applications, I'm sure that you will find yourself either having to integrate with a lot of large systems for which we use connectors, but sometimes you will have these old applications that you need to integrate and they don't expose any way to connect. Here is where RPA can help. You can use RPA to connect to those apps and then bring the data to your application in some shape or form through Power Platform. So the idea is that you can connect to anything, either by means of connectors or RPA. And then when you connect to everything and you put it on your Dataverse database, you could expose all that data in your beautiful applications that are truly native and that can help you do all these everyday tasks like scanning, shared device modes, etc., in modern and fast applications. And of course, all of these you can build using the copilots, either for Power Automate, for Power Apps, for Pages, you name it. So with that, I think we covered all these parts. I'm going to pass it on back to Doug. And floor is yours, Doug.
Yeah, thank you, Leon, for showing us some of those exciting new features. And we only have to wait a month, so we're certainly waiting anxiously for them. Just in the final couple of minutes, just wanted to mention how you can reach out. MCA Connect being a top manufacturing partner, 20 years in the Microsoft space, hundreds of Power Platform projects that we've delivered successfully. And many of our own software products are actually built on the Power Platform. So certainly would encourage you to reach out. Here are some of our pieces of software built on top of the Power Platform. You can see the icons as to which ones they use. And in fact, we have a lot of customer stories. We'd be happy to show you if you have a scenario. We probably have some relevant experience in that area that we love to tell you about. And so how could you get started? Would love to invite you to come to a Power Platform expert consult where we talk about what are the scenario, where do you want to get started? Maybe you want to know where or how to get started. Maybe you need to know how to scale out, how to do governance and do a COE. So happy to jump on a quick call and just discuss where you'd like to start. We'd love to also send you our low-code flipbook, which is about to come out. So please look out for that. And there's plenty of other ways to engage, to be honest. And this is doesn't even scratch the surface. And then finally, I'll just mention that there are some additional Power Platform resources that are here. So you can click on the links here or just look for them in the chat. And we're very happy you were able to join us today. Please fill out the attached survey if you have time. And with that, I think we'll close it out. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, everyone.